Watercolor tip: extreme wet on wet watercolor. First, mix your paints to where you have a good pool of paint for each of the colors that you want to use. And now you apply water to the paper. Make sure it's not pooling, but very wet. I applied that with a sponge. Go ahead and start. I started with kind of a sun in the middle of this. Now you'll see that I made a mistake here early on, but I went back and fixed it. So I'm adding some hills in the background here, start of some trees, kind of a hill coming down on the right hand side there. Now at this point I should have put in the background sky color, but I went ahead and kind of got carried away with this particular green color I was working with and didn't do that, so I had to come back after a while and add that. So I'll show you where that happened. I had a nice wet green brush and dropped some paint on it on the way across. I guess I'll add a plant there, maybe in a couple spots. Here's where I should have put a tree in, or a sky in before I started the trees up into the sky. But we'll come back and do that in just a minute. I've got some bright green grass and brush coming in on the left hand side there, a little bush back in the background. Couple drops that'll probably turn into bushes possibly, or we'll work with those. Here comes the sky. Better late than never. Now I'm working quickly so that the water on the paper doesn't dry out and I can get some nice bleeds with all of the colors that I add. You'll see that as this progresses, how the colors bleed into one another. Let's decide where we're going to have some trees. So Bob Ross might put some happy little trees in here, so we'll put in some happy little trees. So there's one in the background. Let's have another one live right about there, maybe a couple together. A bunch of smaller ones on the hill in the background there. Now this will bleed into the background and soften, so I'm not going to worry about the darkness on those. We'll get some trees up on the top ridge there coming in. There's a bunch of them in back there, so we'll just kind of rough those in various different places. You can't see every tree by itself, so just block in some color. This watercolor paper is laying flat. You can't tell that from the video, but it is on a flat surface so that it doesn't all run down towards the front and drip everywhere. It has a chance to kind of bleed into the other colors without running too much. I'll start adding a little darker shadow colors. There goes the one green dot. The right hand side kind of blends into the background there. Now with the dark colors, I'm going to add a couple rocks, maybe a brush or two here, and I've got the back of a knife that I'm kind of scribbling in here just loosely. Now if I use the other side of the knife, it would add a stronger element to kind of wipe away the color. So this, I'll turn around there, we'll put a rock or a couple strokes for brush in the foreground. It could be a rock or maybe a stump of a tree, who knows. Some more rocks. Work with the water a little bit. A little bit of flow going on there. That's one thing that you look back on something, and I kind of wish I would have left that alone, but I came in with a rag here and kind of softened that. Could have had a little bit of maybe a water kind of falling over some rocks there, but instead it's very soft. Here comes some more trees kind of coming in front of the sunrise back there, the sky. We'll go in and start darkening areas, adding shadow as we go. So we start off lighter and go darker and darker as we go with more and more detail. As this dries out, the paints don't run quite as much, so as you put them on, they hold their shape a little bit more, depending on how dry the canvas is and where it is. There, it's actually wiping away some of the color in the background as I add that. I have a couple more trees back there. They're all living on that hill going up the side behind this brush here. Let's darken some of those, bring some trees forward. So the other trees that we put in before there will look like they're in the background because they've had a chance to soak into the water and kind of soften a little bit. And then these are a little bit more in the foreground. And as we add more texture and darker colors, these trees become further and further in the foreground. There, I think we're going to have an outcrop of rock right there, so we'll throw in some color there. I'll come back after a while with that knife and kind of scrape away some of that color and give it a little texture for the rocks. Just building some more shadow as we go. Let's say a little bush or tree kind of lives here in the foreground. See what happens with that little tree as we decide to move forward. Looks like another rock here we just placed. The strong dark colors, I can come back with a knife as you see on some of those other areas and kind of scrape away and make some highlights and give it a little depth for more like a rock instead of just a dark stroke. There's a little tree that lives right there. Rocks taking shape. Here's our outcrop back here, so maybe a little bush in the middle of the rocks there. Comes down. Well, the background has got some pretty dark colors, so in order to bring your eye forward, I'm going to add some darker colors in the foreground here to bring your eye forward. As in perspective, as you go further back in the painting, it should get lighter. So that's a really dark outcrop in the back there, and in order to offset that, I need some strong dark color here in the foreground to bring your eye forward and bring your perspective forward. A little bit of the shape to the rocks along the edge of the creek running through the picture. Some brush and rocks back in the background there. And as I bring the knife in there, that kind of softens some of those dark colors so they're not quite as strong, heavy, dark colors. There's that little tree that lives in between the rocks. Nature, you don't have a lot of horizontal strong lines unless they're tree trunks or something that have fallen down. So there's maybe some tree trunks. Kind of shadow behind that trunk there. The side of the hill coming in there, peeking around between the trees. Back there, I'm scrubbing away a little bit of the foreground color here. The water makes it look more like a pool of water sitting there. I'm just having fun with this. I mean, you work fast with the wet watercolor. You never know exactly what's going to turn out, depending on how it drips and how things go. You can always go back and start another painting. It doesn't take long to put one of these on paper. So if you don't like the way something turned out, you can't fix it, then go back and do another one. See how the paper's still wet there and how the ink is bleeding into the colors there. What's fun is just let it bleed and see what happens. You don't know what's going to happen when you do that. So it takes on shapes of their own sometimes, very natural, organic shapes. A few splashes here and there. Bringing the dark colors from the background forward again. So, but I want to keep colors kind of consistent throughout the piece on this one so that I've got some of the same color happening throughout the piece and not just in one spot. So we'll form those rocks a little bit more shape there. A little more shape to the brush in the background behind the bush here in the foreground. Along the edge of the pool of water. A tiny bit of detail there. Let it bleed together, see what happens. It's always fun to not be in total control of every brush stroke. You just let it happen, let it bleed, see what happens. That's what's fun about the wet on wet style of painting. Liking this pretty much so far. And I want to bring a little bit more dark color into the foreground here. Again, it's at a point where I could probably stop and start to take form. I kind of like what's happening. I'm not sure what's happening on the left-hand side with that bush. Need to go in and maybe work with that a little bit. Maybe bring a little bit more dark color into the very foreground. tree kind of creeping in there. We need maybe strokes of highlights within the tree. Or brush. It's kind of a couple of tree and maybe some bushes kind of grown together there. Adding more detail as we go, here and there. It's easy to overdo, so you need to decide when to stop. It's easier said than done sometimes. There's a couple places here that might have stopped. We'll see what happens. There's some more rock formations here. Highlight on the rock back below the tree and the outcropping back there. Tip of the tree poking through back on the left hand side here. Just add a little bit of shadow to those rocks in the background there. A bit more along the shoreline. Maybe let those bleed a little bit. Throw the grass in the foreground. A couple more splatters, that's always fun. Dropping some water on there in a couple of spots to just let it bleed. Drop some back there. Watch that corner where that turquoise blue is. That's going to kind of bleed together there. It's kind of fun. A little bit more detail of the old stump of a tree sitting back here in front of the sun rising. Couple of branches that grew out and kind of died along the way, it looks like, the little stump. Sitting on the back of the hill back there. Bring a little bit of highlight back into the foreground with a stem sticking out from the brush here. Gives it a little bit more detail, a couple stems. It's a nice brush, I like this one where I lay it flat and get a good broad stroke, or use the point of it and get some fine detail. Very nice brush, I've had that for a long time. I think I'm going to call this good in a minute here and let it dry and see what we have. And there's a finished painting. If you like this video and would like to see more, hit the subscribe button. And as always, my friends, have a wonderful, creative day. I'll see you soon.